All right, so yesterday we did dividing polynomials. Today we're looking at factoring polynomials, which is kind of the same thing, you'll see. So today students will be able to write polynomial expressions in equivalent forms using the distributive property, and we're going to be using factoring. So factoring, dividing a polynomial into factors or products, okay? So that's separating it into two separate things. So we're going to start with an equation like this and find the two things that when you multiply equals that, okay? So we're going to be able to find both pairs. Right? It may seem overwhelming, but you'll see we'll do it one step at a time. So a factor is the parts that of a term or polynomials that you're divided into. So you have factors of numbers, okay? And on your desks, you should see a factoring sheet that's to stay in this room so that you can use it on the assignments, okay? Greatest common factor literally means that. It's the biggest factor that they have in common, okay? The biggest factor that they have in common. That's what greatest common factor means. The sum of a perfect square, a binomial in which two terms are perfect squares and are added. So that's perfect square. 4 is a perfect square. 9x squared is perfect. 64 is perfect. That means there won't be any decimals. Difference of perfect squares is the opposite. So perfect squares, but instead of adding, you're subtracting. Okay? Now, let's look at our worksheet for today. So factoring by greatest common factor. Okay? I have it set up for the boxes since that's kind of what we're used to right now. So in your box for number 1, I'm only going to do 1, and then you're going to have to do the rest on your own, but I'll show you how to do the first one. So for number 1, we're going to put it in this box. We have 14 x to the 5th minus 21 x to the 3rd plus 7x minus 35. Don't forget your negatives. Okay? So what we want to see is what do all of these have in common? What's their greatest common factor? Okay? So how we're going to do that is let's do the numbers first. Let's write out all the factors of 14. So you have the sheet in front of you, but if you don't have a sheet in front of you one day, you can do this. Y equals, I believe it's 14 divided by x. Go to your table. And it lists the factors for you. 1 and 14, 2 and 7. And I believe that's it for 14, right? Yeah, so it lists it for you. So you can always go and look that up if you need to. But on your factoring sheet, we have 1 and 14, 2 and 7, right? Okay, so let's list all the factors of 21. 1 and 21 and what? 3 and 7. Now we'll list all the factors of 7. Just 1 and 7. Now let's list all the factors of 35. 1 and 35 and 5 and 7. Okay, so now we need to look at this and we want to find the greatest common factor. So we're going to circle something that they all have in common. They all share a 1. Okay, do they all share a 2? Do they all share a 7? We'll circle all the 7s. Okay, do they all share a 14? No. Since we've checked these, okay, for 14, if they don't share something 14 has, then they're not going to all share something anymore. So you can just check the first one. So what is the greatest common factor here? It's 7. Okay? Now looking at this, do they all share at least one x? No, because this one doesn't have one, right? If they did, you could pull out an x. Okay? So you can pull out as many x's that they all have in common. So being that they don't, we're done with 7. Okay? So now we look at what times 7 gives you 14x to the 5th. So what times 7 gives you 14? 2. And then what's going to give you x to the 5th? X to the 5th. So 2x to the 5th times 7 gives you 14x to the 5th, correct? Yeah, so that's what we're doing. So what times 7 will give you negative 21? Negative 3. And then what's going to give you x to the 3rd? X to the 3rd will. Okay, what times 7 will give you 7? 1, right? And then what times 7 will give you 7x? Just 1x. You don't have to write the 1 in front. Okay, and what times 7 gives you negative 35? Negative 5. Okay, so your two factors for this problem are going to be 7 times 2x to the 5th minus 3x to the 3rd plus x minus 5. Okay, so we just wrote this one first, and then all that. Okay, so on the other problems, if you're confused, just rewind the video, look at it step by step. What was the first step? Then what was the second step? Then what was the third step? So go ahead and pause the video and do the rest of the problems on this side of the page. All right, so now we're going to look on the back side. Okay, this is going to kind of be done the same way how we were dividing, except for we don't know what one of the factors are. Okay, so we're going to figure them both out. So it can start off the same way. We're 3a squared. Well, first, before you do anything, always ask yourself, is there a greatest common factor between all three? Is there something all three of them share? I'm going to save you the trouble for this problem and tell you in this particular problem, no. If they all shared something, like say they were all divisible by 5, you would pull the 5 out first and then solve it. Okay? But since there's not, we're not. So we know that the 3a squared goes here, and we know that that 5 goes here. We already know that. So now we're just trying to figure out what's going to go in here so that we can figure out the rest of the problem, right? Okay. How you do that is you make a magical rainbow. Okay. What's 3 times 5? 15. Okay. Now, here's what we're going to do. What times what gives you 15? 1 times 15, right? When you add those together, what do they make? 16. That means that this is what you're going to use. Okay? So we have 1x and 15x. Okay? Now from here, you do this. Oh, it's supposed to be a, sorry. Let me erase that. (1a) and 15a. So from here, look like this. What can you divide both of these by? Right here. 5, right? Is there something you can divide both of these by? 1 and a. 1a. So from here, what times a will give you 3a squared? 3a, right? And from here, what times a will give you a? Just 1, right? So double check everything. 3a times a gives you 3a squared. Good, we got that. 1 times a gives you a. Good, awesome. 3a times 5 gives you 15a. That worked. 1 times 5 gives you 5. So in this case, your factors are going to be 3a plus 1 times a plus 5. Okay, it's just the side times the top. Okay, I will do one more example of this with you just so you can see it one last time, and then you can do the other two on your own. So let's go to 16. Oh, where did it go? I lost my, oh, whoops. Okay, so let's go to number 6, okay, number 6. So what's our first step here? What did I tell you? See if there's a greatest common factor. Is there something that can be divided into all three of these? No, nothing, except for 1, but we don't count that. Okay, so what's our next step? Yeah, so 2c squared goes here, and negative 12 goes here. What's our next step? The rainbow. So 2 times negative 12 is what? Negative 24. Now, this is important. When you have a negative, you've got to do it this way. So what time, give me the factors of 24. 1 and negative 24, right? And then you have to do negative 1 and positive 24 because they're going to add up to something different. Okay, so we had to list those factors twice. What's another factor of 24? 2 and 12. Remember, list it twice. Negative, negative. Okay, what's another factor? 3 and 8. Negative, negative. 4 and 6. Negative, negative. Is that it? Okay, so now we're going to do the adding part. Okay, so 1 minus 24 is what? 1 minus 24. Negative 23, right? Negative 1 plus 24 is what? You can type it in your calculator. 23. So negative 2 plus 12 is 10. And then 2 minus 12 is negative 10. Negative 3 plus 8? 3 minus 8? Negative 5. Then we have negative 4 plus 6? 2. And 4 minus 6? Negative 2. So which one of these, oops, sorry. Which one of those, whoa, stop it. Which one of those adds up to our middle number? Because remember, we're looking for, why is it doing that? Yeah, we're looking for negative 5. So which one does it? 3 and negative 8. Do you see why we had to list them twice? Because we needed to find the negative 5. So we're going to put 3c and negative 8c. Now from here, what's our next step? Yeah, figuring out the sides. So what can you divide both of these by? No, 3 can't be divided by 4. Look at your factor sheet. Yeah, you can divide them both by 3, so we can pull out a 3. Anything else? Nope, okay. So what can you divide both of these by? 2. Anything else? C, they both have a C, so you can pull out a 2C. What can you divide? Oh, well, now we can just figure out. 2C times what will give you 2C squared? C, okay. And then 3 times what will give you negative 12? Negative 4. So now go back and check everything and be sure you did it right. 2C times C is 2C squared. That worked. C times 3 is 3C. Awesome. Negative 4 times 2C is negative 8C. Great. Negative 4 times 3 is negative 12. Great. So what's our factors? 2C plus 3 times what? C minus 4. Okay? So I want you to handle the rest of the problems on your own. Good luck. Okay, let me know if you need any help. Okay, be sure to come check it by me.